All right, I'm here with Joe Brown, newly minted Team USA Olympian after his third place finish at the Olympic trials in the men's discus just about a week ago. Has Joe that title, Joe Brown Olympian, has that set sunk in for you yet?
I don't think so. No, it hasn't really sunk in yet. It's just it doesn't feel it still doesn't feel real to me.
Yeah. Let's go back to that competition last Saturday. Really strong final. We saw seven men over 65. You got to figure one of the best American discus competitions ever. But you only got into the top eight by 3 centimeters. You were at 61.58 to 61.55 after 3 rounds. What were the emotions like heading into the finals after just barely getting in there?
It was intense. It was every emotion you can think of. I was feeling nervous, anxious, uh, happy, sad, all of them. Yeah, I was just after the 61 in the second round. That's when I started getting worried. I was like, oh, like that wasn't enough. And then I was like having the thoughts of like, is that all I have today? Or like, because that one it didn't feel like the throw I was looking for, and it had like a decent release or whatever. And I was just like, oh man, am I gonna be able to like am I gonna be able to get any higher? And then the third round one, I was just like, oh no, this is not where I want to be sitting. And so yeah, I was just like, all I knew every one of the guys below me could definitely jump above me at any time. So I was just like, oh no. And so I was waiting for everyone to do it. And so one by one they went, and I was just like, oh. And I was getting like I was sad for them because it was like it's my friends like Dallin
Yeah.
and Jeff and all those guys. Like I'm cool with all of them, and so like it hurt like being the one that it was either me or them, and so that part sucked. But I was relieved when I made it, and I gave Jeff a big old hug whenever came out. Told him that I was proud of him because I am proud of him because he did well, and he's been doing well this season, last season. He's been climbing his way up too, and so I was just like sad to see him knocked out, sad to see Dallin knocked out. But yeah,
And you were first in the order, right? So you had to wait for literally everyone to go through.
yeah, every single thrower.
Yeah. And then we get to round six. You're still sitting in that eighth place position, but you go 65.79. You move into third ahead of Reggie Jagers by 4 centimeters. And then you're playing the waiting game again. When that sixth round throw came out of your hand, like how did that one feel? Because it was, your best throw on the day by a pretty significant margin. Like, did you know that you at least put yourself into contention for that top three when it came out?
No, it it didn't feel good. I didn't think it was a good throw when it came out. Because I felt like where I was at when I came through on my reverse, and I was like, oh man, because I came through on the left side of the ring, and so I was like, dang, I think that means I over rotated. And usually, like when I over rotate, then a lot of times it's not very good. I mean, sometimes I can hit a big one if I have a decent release on it, but I was like, oh, because I felt the edge of the ring when I came through on the reverse, and I felt my ankle buckle, and I was like, oh no, I almost fouled. And so there were so many things that went wrong in the throw. I was like, oh, it might have been a little bit further, but I don't think it was far enough. And then I I came around and I watched it land, and I was like, oh, I think that was past the tape. I was like, well, I guess that's pretty good. It might be. At that point, I had no idea how far I even needed to throw to get into the top three. And so I was like, well, we'll see where that puts me. And then I was just like, I was walking out, just like, I don't know where we're gonna be at, but that was all I had. So I don't have any more chances to do anything. And then I was just looking at the results at the board, and I saw the number pop up, and I was like, okay, that's pretty good. That's better than I thought it was. And then when I saw the number, the place, and I was like, third place. Hmm. And it took a while to register in my head, and I was like, third place. I think we're in. And then I started screaming, and I was like, okay, wait, let me calm down. We still
Yeah.
have the whole rest, all the rest of the guys to go. I still have to wait for all of them. And yeah, that part was excruciating.
Were you like able to watch them throw it all, or were you just like, I can't watch this. I just need to, I can't really do anything. I just gotta sit and pray, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I was just like, there's nothing I can do. And I was like already having a panic attack on the field. So like I could there was no more I could give. I had no more energy to give. So I was talking with Marcus like before he threw, he came over and congratulated me, and then I really don't even remember what we were talking about. It was like I blacked out at that point. And then yeah, I didn't want to watch anybody throw. I knew like Turner could definitely throw farther because he's that like that's his thing is like coming back and answering people.
Hmm.
And then I knew Brian could do it because Brian's the one that sniped me last year at USA's. So I was like, well, it's gonna be a repeat of last year. I knew Marcus could probably do it too, and I was just like, every one of them. I was cheering for all of them. I think if I can remember correctly, but I was cheering and looking away at the same time because I didn't want to see where it landed.
Yeah. When you finally saw Reggie's last throw come up as a foul, did it like instantaneously hit you all in that like one moment that like you got the job done, finished top three, you're headed to Paris, or was it more like a gradual thing where you kind of like I don't know, guess had to like come to terms with it or something?
I think it all like I think that's when it all came like crashing in because I was standing with Marcus at that point too, I think, and he was like, "Well, how's it feel?" And I was like, "I think I'm struggling to breathe. I think I'm having a panic attack." And he was like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll be here to catch you if you pass out." And then I like went down into like a crouch, and I was like trying to breathe. He was like, "Oh, you're serious? It's okay. It's okay. You'll be okay." And yeah, that's when it was all like coming in, and I was like, the adrenaline was still rushing, and all of it was just all crashing at the same time.
How nice was it knowing, you had the standard locked up, so you didn't have to like sit and wait for any rankings math or anything. You
Hmm.
got top three, you're good to go.
Yeah, that was super nice. I don't know. I think if I feel like it put more internal pressure on me because I was like, I've already thrown pretty far this year, so like I need to be able to repeat it. And like I know if I do what I'm capable of doing, then I can make the team. And so in my heart and in my head, I think that made me like more like anxious, and I had a lot more energy and nerves going into it than any previous competitions.
Mhm. I listened, right before we started, I saw Throws You posted an interview they did with you in the mix zone. And you said that like if you didn't make the team, you were thinking about like retiring. Is that
Yeah.
was that like if you threw because with the quality of the field, it was possible you threw like 67 and still finished outside of the top three. Even if you would have performed like that well, is that was it like Olympic team or bust for you this year?
That's how I was feeling. Yeah. If it was because I like I was saying, like it felt in my heart and in my head, like I felt like it was within my capabilities to get at least top three. And so like if I didn't get in the top three, like that was to me that was a sign like there's just I'm not cut out for big competitions like that. And so I was gonna call it.
Yeah, well, I think I speak for most throws fans in the world where you say we're very happy that you did finish top three and you're sticking around.
I appreciate it.
Let's get into a little bit of kind of your journey to where you are now. So going back to kind of the very beginning, how did you get into the sport? How did you get into throwing?
Well, let's see. I started in seventh grade. Um, I got into it because I just wanted to work out in school and get in the athletics class. Because my brother played basketball all growing up through for his whole life, and so my brother and my dad were always like working out and doing cool stuff, and I just would tag along with them, and I liked exercising and working out with them, and so I knew about the athletics class because of him, and so I wanted to do it because of my big brother and be in the athletics class, but like I didn't know I didn't want to play football, and I didn't know how to play football. I didn't know any of the positions. I didn't know anything about football, and that's the number one thing in Texas is football. And, and I wasn't good at basketball, so I was like, I don't think I really want to do basketball. And so the one of the only other choices was track, and so I was like, well, I'll try it. And I didn't know anything about like any of the events or anything. And first day of practice, I think it was the first day. I get my days mixed up, but I remember we did like one of the workouts they had us do was like sprint the straights and like do lunges on the curves on the track.
Cool.
And I was just like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do this. And so eventually I found my way over to throws somehow, and I was not good. It was pretty horrible. I threw it over the net one time into the tennis courts while they were practicing. Um, and I thought I don't know. I don't think I hit anybody, but that was one of the things that I remember the most about that time. I didn't go to any track meets that year or seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade. I wasn't good enough to make it to any track meets. I think the first meet I actually ever went to was in 10th grade, and like I was decent, but I wasn't good still. And I just kept on doing it. I started playing football in ninth grade eventually. And so in that point in high school, I was like, oh, I like football. It's cool. And then I was like, I also like just hanging around and track and just being around the throwers. That was fun too. So I did it. I did track during the off season for another sport, and yeah, just kept on going. And I never really got that great in high school compared to everybody else like that I throw against now.
Yeah.
Like most of them threw probably 40 or 50 feet farther than me, or they were like state champions or state runner ups, or they at least made it to the state meet. I didn't even make it to the state championship meet.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then I I wanted to go to college for football. Um, I think every high school athlete in Texas wants to do that, but uh, I didn't get very many offers. I got a few D3 offers, but they were like super expensive. So then I started like emailing coaches myself and like asking like, do you guys need a thrower on your team? And so I reached out to A&M-Commerce, and that's where I ended up. And I got a little scholarship. I got $2,000 per semester.
Mhm.
So pretty close to just like being a walk on basically. Um, Yeah, and then I worked my way up.
And then once you get to, D2 A&M-Commerce by 2019, you are the D2 national champion. What was that
Hmm.
meet and that experience like for you winning that national title?
That was like vindicating to me, I think. I think that's a good way to describe it because I was never the favorite and I was always the little guy and always the smallest person in the field, and I wasn't even the best one on our team, and I wasn't even the one that people at our own school and our own on our own team would have picked to win. And so it was like it 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 validated my beliefs in myself, and that was the best part of it. That whole year I was just like kind of that's when I started taking like meditation and mindfulness and visualization and mental training and all that stuff a lot more serious. And so like I visualized like winning the D2 championship over and over and over again. Um, and every time anyone asked me that, I told them like that's what I was planning on doing. And everybody was like, "Oh yeah, okay, but what about Josh? What about the other guy?" And that was the other guy that was at our school who he was better than me. He had the farther PR and he had proven himself in more meets. And so when we got to the competition, that was like it just felt like it felt natural to me. Like I felt like I had been there. It felt um like I was just doing what I had planned on doing, and it was just like I was going through the steps that I had planned out in my head. And so I don't think I really had many nerves going into that meet. I was just thinking about this the other day. I can't remember feeling like anxious or nervous or anything going into that one. I think it was just I had done so much mental preparation going into that one. It was just like I know what I'm here to do. And then it played out exactly how I had planned. And that was just like it was so cool because I was like, I can't believe this actually worked. This is crazy. Like I can't believe that the mental training worked and my beliefs like paid off. And yeah, it kind of ignited like that fire in me where it was like maybe this dream isn't like that far as far away as I think it is.
So, would how important would you say that meet was to your decision to continue to pursue throwing post collegiately?
I think that was like it wouldn't have happened if I if I didn't win that. Like I didn't even I didn't know anything about competing post collegiately at that point, and I didn't even like understand the USA like national championships and like how you get into those, and I didn't understand any of that. I didn't know about any of it. And so after that, my coach was like, "Oh, let's try and get you into the national championship." And I was like, "Okay, what is that? I thought we just competed at that." And then he was like, "No, no, the big one." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's do it." And so we entered, but I was tied for the 24th spot or the 18th spot, however many people they took. I was tied for that last spot with Sam Welsh, and then they ended up taking him instead. And so I was just like, dang, I was like right there on the edge of getting in, but I didn't make it. And so after that, I was like, oh, I guess I could keep on trying. Like I've been getting better every year, so might as well keep going. And so at that next year, I became a GA for the team, and I was like, well, I'll just keep on training and traveling with the team and competing with them at wherever they go. And so it was a pretty like easy transition. But I also lost my coach because he retired after that year, and so I didn't really have anyone guiding me, so I had to like kind of just figure everything out on my own.
Have there been times post collegiately in like 21, 22, or 23 where, I know we talked a little bit about you potentially stepping away from the sport if this meet didn't go well, but were there times where you looked at that as like a serious option as just walking away in the last couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. Um, After the 21 trials for the ones for Tokyo, um, like going into that meet, I didn't have a big PR at that time. Um, but like I had just hit a PR, I think, going into it. And then like yeah, I think I had just broken 60 that year. And the weeks leading up to it, I was throwing the best I've ever thrown in my life. And I was throwing like 62s, 63s like pretty easily. And so I was like, okay, this is I got a shot. And and then when I got to the meet, it was just like I had no idea what happened. It just became like way bigger than I thought it was, and the moment was too big for me. And I threw like 53, and I was like, and I got dead last. I didn't even make it to the final. And then I think like 63 ended up winning. And I was like, oh, and that was like what I was throwing in the weeks leading up. And I was like, I don't know what to like. I'm not making any money. I don't have any money. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I should keep doing this. Like, are we gonna be able to live? Like, and I had lost my GA position, so I didn't have a job. I was just all I was doing was training at that point, and I was just like questioning everything. Like, I didn't have a coach, I didn't have a job, I didn't have an agent, I didn't have anything, and I just got last at the trials, and I was just like, well, is it even worth it for me to keep going? Um, but then I talked with a few people, and then uh kind of just like reignited my fire. And then I kind of reframed it, that whole situation, like as more of like a motivating thing, like to show me like I could have won that thing. I kind of convinced myself like I could have won because it was only 62, 63. I think it was like 63 something that won. And I was like, I I could have won, or at least I could have made it. And that kind of helped me like see like I'm not that far away from where I want to be. I just need to be able to perform at these big meets. So yeah.
In, your post collegiate career, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but you've been, largely unsponsored. I know you have a sponsorship with Track Barn, and then I saw the Texas Throwers Camp helped sponsor you for these trials.
Mhm.
But what has kind of been like the toughest part of competing, largely unsponsored slash unattached at some of these meets over the last couple of years?
Um, it's kind of just like one, it's like a recognition thing. It's like it kind of makes you doubt like your worth. Like if because you think about it like what why don't these big companies like think that I'm worth it? And so it kind of like makes you doubt yourself a little bit. And then and also just like you you just have to pay for everything. And like I wouldn't be able to do any of it without my wife. She's basically my sponsor, my biggest sponsor. She pays for everything, and um, she allows me to keep on doing this hobby of mine. But yeah, as if I didn't have her, like I don't think I would have been able to go to as many meets as I did and get hotel rooms and
Yeah.
pay the entry fees. And that's like the hardest part is just like it's just travel. Like you just can't afford to go places. And then like equipment is like one of the only things that I haven't really had to worry about like my whole career because somehow I just magically somebody always has a pair of shoes for me somehow, and then Track Barn always takes care of me with like implements. So I'm really lucky with that. That's one of the only things that like I haven't had to worry about at all.
With that Track Barn sponsorship, you've also gotten, in my opinion, the coolest kit at the trials with your Who's That Thrower jersey. Can you just kind of talk about, like the inspiration behind that and then what went into, I guess, the design process for that uniform?
Yeah. So so the design comes from like the old Pokemon commercials back in the day where they would be like, "Who's that Pokemon?" and show the silhouette of the Pokemon, and you'd have to guess it. Then they would come back from the commercials and do the whole thing, and then reveal the Pokemon at the end. And so I was like, that's such a like fond memory of mine, just like watching like kids WB and watching cartoons on a Saturday morning, and I just would remember like seeing those things. And so I was like, I wonder how I could like implement that into a jersey because I had just because Track Barn did Chubby Diamonds his jersey his kit, and so everybody was like going crazy over his kit, and I was like, man, I really want something really cool like that. And I was just like deliberating for months on like what I could do to just be different. And so then I remembered the Pokemon. I had a few other ideas, and then I eventually like came to that one, and I designed it, and Track Barn. One of the other people in Track Barn, it wasn't Carl, but one of the other people who worked for Track Barn messaged me through the account, and they were like, "Oh, you've been doing a great job uh, with with posting and stuff. We want to give you a custom jersey." I was like, "Oh, perfect! I just finished doing a design that I think would be really cool." And so it just all worked out, and then they approved it and got the mock-ups done. And I was like, wow, it looks even better than I thought it was gonna look. And then they got it done pretty fast, and yeah, that's how it went.
I know it's only been a week, and the timeline for this kind of stuff usually does, move a little slower for throwers, unfortunately. Even like Andrew Evans, who won the trials, he was competing unattached. Has there been any sort of like, have you heard from any like bigger companies about a potential sponsorship or
No, not at all.
at least you got a bunch of really cool Team USA merch now?
Yeah, yeah.
Your progression year over year has just been like incredible for so 2021, through 60 18, 62 62 in 2022, 63 55 last year, and now 67 92. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about what's kind of gone into your little bit of a later bloom than what we see from some of the other like elite discus throwers in the world?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like I think I've in high school, I like I said, I never got to that like elite level. And so when I got to like my last few weeks of high school, we had we had one coach who was like he had been a college thrower and he knew like a lot about technical stuff. And so he was the head coach, and so he had duties for with everybody. He had to help every all the other people on the team, and so like we never really got time with him. And so I think once I made it past district, that was when like the team like got cut down pretty drastically because not a lot of people made it past districts. And so I got a lot of one-on-one time with him at that point. And so I think my progression in like the last 4 weeks of my high school career was like I think I went from throwing like 120 to 130 and then 130 to 140 and then 140 to 158. And I didn't throw that until my very last competition. Um, and so I had like a really rapid progression in that really short amount of time. And so then I think I kind of just like kept up with that progression when I got to college. Like even though like I didn't have like a all-star coach who was just like world class, but I had more resources and more people around me, and I had YouTube, and I had a lot more people that knew about throwing. So like I kind of that progression kind of like kept on going. And in college, I think I progressed about like almost the same. I was like almost 2 meters every year. And I think I started at like 47, and I went to 49, and then 53, I think. And then I took a year off, but I think that year I threw like 55, and then I threw 59 my last year. And then I think, yeah, it was just pretty much the same progression after that. It's just been about 2 meters every year. Um, Last year, it just, I threw 64 something, 82, I think last year, but it wasn't recognized by World Athletics or USATF. So like it wasn't on my profile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think it was about, yeah, 2 meters every year that I had been progressing. And I think it's just this year. And I think since I got out of college, it's been like you would think it would get harder to make that progression, but I think I've had more like full healthy years um since I got out of college. When I was in college, it was like injury after injury after injury. Like if I didn't hurt one thing, I hurt another thing, and I would have to like take time off. And so I don't think I really ever had a full year of healthy training. I think that is probably the biggest factor, is just being able to get a whole year of healthy training and being able to take whatever time I need to take off, because I make my own training, and I can decide like, hmm, yeah, you're not feeling too good, you're not looking too good right now. You should probably deload, or like take the rest of the week off, or just go home and go to sleep. I think those things are like the biggest factors to me.
Are you completely self-coached right now?
Yeah, I would say pretty much. Like I have a couple people that I consult with from time to time. Um, but I don't really have anybody who comes to my practices, or who I send videos to like consistently every day. I'll send videos like maybe once every couple months to a couple people and be like, "What do you think I should? What do you think? Like, what do you think are the best things I could fix with my technique at this point in time?" And then I'll get a bunch of opinions, a bunch of different opinions, and see like what the commonalities are between everybody's opinions, and then like if it lines up with the way that I view the throw, and the way that I view my throw, and like my strengths that I know I have and my weaknesses that I know I have, and I kind of go like that.
A lot of your progression in the last 2 years in particular has come in Ramona, Oklahoma. I feel like you should be like the mayor there. I feel like you compete there like more than anyone else has. Could you just talk a little bit about how important what, Don Milliken and Caleb Seal have done there is
Mhm.
for like the throwing community? Because like we just saw, in April, the world record on the men's side and the best throw in 3 decades on the women's side. Could you just talk about how important it is having a place that can be like a dedicated throws facility that everyone can go and throw really far at?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is like I don't even care about the wind. I like going there because it's like throws only. They care about the throws. They treat us right. They'll like accommodate to the athletes, and they have a million meets throughout the whole season. And it's pretty cheap to get there. It's pretty cheap to stay over there. and they're just nice people. Like everybody always everybody is always talking about like, oh yeah, he's been chasing the wind and chasing the standards. I wasn't chasing anything. I was just competing there because I like them. I like competing, and I went there so much because like they had the most opportunities to compete, and I liked using the competitions as like my practice, my training, my practice. I think like being able to have so many competitions like helps you prepare. It helps you like solidify that competition throw, because it's hard to replicate that in practice just by yourself, especially for me. Like I'm in a field by myself practicing with like no one around, and like some I put markers out there now, but I have no like idea of how far I'm throwing. No music, no nothing, just me by myself in a field. So it's kind of hard for me to, unless I like take some caffeine and get all like hyped up, but it's pretty hard for me to get like that same energy that I bring to competitions by myself. And so being able to have somewhere that's so close to me that I can just drive to, stay the night, and I can drive there the morning of, and then stay the night out there and get two competitions in, and I can lift there. I can do everything I need to do there, and people are nice to me. It's just like a win-win situation, because like a lot of the collegiate meets, they're not too nice when when post collegiates try and compete
Yeah.
with their kids. But yeah.
Do you think after, everything that happened there this year, we could see some bigger and deeper like international fields coming over? Because I think Alekna coming to Ramona was, like a really big stepping stone and kind of what they're trying to do there. Do you think
Hmm.
next year we might see that like escalate more and see some of the other bigger European guys come over and get a few competitions in?
I think maybe like I think this year was a stepping stone for bigger things to come. I think there's lots of possibilities for a lot of cool things to happen just because of the magnitude of what happened there. And now like there are a lot more eyes on their facility, and a lot more people are talking about it. So there's the possibilities are endless, especially like with the Michael Johnson's track thing going on. I think we have the foundation over there to set something up for a field league. We just need the right people to get in contact with each other and make something happen.
Mhm. You are incredibly active on social media. You post a ton of your workouts, a ton of your training. You post about like almost every competition, it feels like. The first time I had actually heard of you was in 2022 when you were doing your series of reviewing different discuses.
Mm.
So is that something that kind of just comes like with the territory? Like, is that something that was very natural for you, or is that your social media presence something kind of intentionally that you're doing to hopefully grow the sport and reach more people with throwing?
Yeah. So yeah, it was not like a natural thing for me. My wife is actually like a social media person, so that's where she gets makes all her money from. And so that's kind of what inspired me to do more social media stuff, because I saw her success with it, and I was like, oh, maybe I should give it a try and like reach more people and be a try and like and use it to inspire more kids and like answer questions and talk about things that I don't see people talking about, and just give like a real perspective of what it's like to be a post collegiate thrower, and just show everything and not tailor it to make me look good. But yeah.
So you do a great job of being like an ambassador for the sport, but the onus, I guess, shouldn't all be on you guys to market yourselves as media members. How do you think we can do a better job of marketing the throws aside from just putting more attention on them?
That's a good question. Um, I don't know. I think like just talking to people like throwers about their stories and making like helping make content and sharing it with the people who care about it. Just like putting content out there, it helps a lot because like we don't ever really, and we've seen a lot more throwing content in the recent this year in particular, like with Kara doing a whole lot of stuff and you guys, but I think like just keep on building on that and just making content and I don't even know. I don't know what else could be done better because just like, oh, okay. Have you ever, you got to go watch Throws University. They did a competition, an indoor competition one time, and they filmed it and they had like Dane was wearing a mic and they would go like between the way that they produced the whole thing was amazing. Like
Mhm.
they had Dane talking in between throws and they like made it real like concise and like throw and then they would get like some feedback from Dane or it was really cool that the way they did it and I think the prize was like a PS5. I think if we do more stuff like that, like produce the throws competitions like that, it makes it like it made it really fun to watch it for me. And I was like, why can't like all of our competitions just get produced like this? And so I think if you watch that, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Was that like just the like garage strength guys? So the like Dane talking in between, we could like hear him coaching them.
Yeah. And that was
That's
what was really cool about it was like you could like you got like an inside look of like what Dane is telling them during a competition.
yeah. That
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna have to go check that out after this. So according to your World Athletics page, the Pan Am Games in Chile last year was your first and only competition outside of the US.
hmm
That's true?
That is correct.
Have you ever, like, obviously not for competing, have you ever been to Europe before?
No, I went to Japan in February though. So
What are some of the things, aside from competing at the Olympics, being an Olympian, is there anything like being in Paris that you're necessarily excited to try, I guess?
I just love trying different cultures' foods. So I'm really excited about trying all the food that everyone loves there and just exploring. I like exploring and seeing things. And I want to go to some grocery stores because I like going to grocery stores. I don't know if I'm just like a weirdo, but I like, I think that's like a fun activity to do while I'm touring around somewhere.
Hmm. You mentioned a little bit ago about how you're pretty big, like on the mental side of things and visualization. What is the next couple weeks going to look like for you on that side of things as you're heading into, the biggest stage the sport can possibly offer, and it's your first time at a competition of this magnitude?
Um, Pretty much just like continue what I've been doing and just like have some dedicated session like mindfulness sessions where like I'll go through like a body relaxation and then I'll do some like visualization and I'll put myself in the stadium and with like all the crowd noise and all that stuff and just try and like put myself in the situation and see how like my body reacts and then try and visualize like hitting the throw that I want to hit and continue or consistently hitting it and like being able to work through the finish and just all the little things that I want to get right and then doing the actual work in practice and like getting consistent with the positions that I want to hit, and then like trying to actually do the things that I was just like doing in my head, and then I kind of pair the two together like in training in real life. And so like when I'm in practice, I'll do like a couple visualization reps and think about like where I want to be, or like the venue that I'm going to be in, and try and imagine all the noise, and then just try and see myself doing what I want to do. And then like if I have too much stimulus going on around, like if I'm hearing birds or something and it's just too distracting, then I'll like actually walk through the positions with my eyes closed or with them open, and like try and feel it as I'm thinking about it in my head, and like seeing it in my head, and that kind of helps me like get a clearer picture in my brain. um, and then I'll also just like I'll do a lot of competition reps in practice, and try and hit the positions that I want to hit at a really high intensity, like I was talking about earlier, where it's like it's kind of hard to do it in practice, but like I can get pretty high intensity in practice. It's just not the same as a competition, but I can get pretty close to it. And then I'll do a couple sessions where I take some caffeine and amp myself up as high as I can get, and then like see if my technique holds when I'm all the way up, like on intensity. And then I'll also like before I get in the ring, I'll try and hear in my brain, I'll try and hear a whole lot of crowd noise and feel the butterflies in my stomach and feel the nerves of competing, and see if I can bring it into the ring with me, and then see if I can hit the positions with all those feelings that I'm gonna feel.
That's really interesting.
Mm.
Do you have any competitions on the schedule right now before we get to Paris, or is it just training, training, training for the next month?
Actually going to Oklahoma
Perfect.
next weekend. Yeah. I got I'm gonna do two competitions there.
Gotcha. And then last question, I've got to ask about the cows. I saw, so I know you have some merch with Track Barn with cows on them. Then we hopped on the call and you've got, I think, five cows behind you right now. What's
Yeah.
kind of the story with all of the cows?
Well, this is my wife's office. This is her space. And she loves the cows. Her nickname is Moo. That's what all her family and friends call her. Um, so the cows come from her. Uh, and that's kind of like that's her brand. Her logo is a cow. We made some cow pins for for me and for her. So it's all from her. She loves cows, and her nickname is Moo, and it's her brand. And yeah, she just loves cows, so I love cows.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on all the success you've had this year and good luck in Paris.
Thank you. I appreciate it.